Hello, everyone. Today I want to tell you a story that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. My name is Lorraine Whitmore. I am 70 years old. For most of my life, I believed I would only marry once. Life had other plans. When people hear that I got married again at 70, they usually smile. They think it must be a sweet love story. They imagine flowers, family dinners, and a happy ending. I wish that had been true. Sometimes the hardest heartbreak comes when you think your lonely days are finally over. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you have sat beside a quiet window and wondered if life still had one more surprise waiting for you. I certainly did. For 12 years I lived alone after my first husband, Harold, passed away from cancer. Those first months were unbearable. Then the years became quiet instead of painful. Every morning I made 1 cup of coffee. Every evening I watched the same chair across the living room stay empty. I became used to silence. Silence has a strange way of becoming part of your daily routine. I knew exactly how my house sounded. The old clock in the hallway. The wooden floor that creaked near the kitchen. The birds outside my bedroom window. They became my companions. I volunteered twice a week at our little town library in Vermont. I enjoyed putting books back on the shelves. Children came after school. Older neighbors stopped by just to talk. It gave my days a little purpose. One rainy Tuesday, a man walked into the library carrying a soaked newspaper under his arm. "I suppose I picked the wrong day to walk here," he said with a small smile. His name was Calvin Mercer. He was 73. He had recently moved into town after retiring from 35 years as an electrical engineer. His voice was calm, not loud, not charming in the way younger men try to be, just gentle. We spoke for only 5 minutes that day. I thought nothing of it. The next week he came back. Then again. Soon I realized he always checked out 1 history book and 1 mystery novel. "It keeps my brain balanced," he joked. Little conversations slowly became longer ones. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we talked about growing older. Sometimes we simply stood near the front window watching the rain. There was never any rush. That was something I appreciated. At our age, people do not need fireworks. We need peace. One afternoon, he asked if I would like to have lunch. I almost said no. Not because I disliked him, because I had forgotten how to let someone into my life. I went home that evening and stood in front of my bedroom mirror. I looked at the wrinkles around my eyes, the gray in my hair, the hands that had worked hard for decades. I quietly asked myself, "Lorraine, are you still allowed to be happy?" I cried before answering. Yes, maybe I was. Lunch turned into weekly dinners. Weekly dinners became Sunday walks around the lake. He never tried to replace Harold. That mattered to me. Whenever I spoke about my late husband, Calvin simply listened. He never became jealous. He never changed the subject. That kindness slowly opened a door inside my heart. My daughter, Melissa, noticed it before I did. "You smile again," she said one afternoon. "I guess I do. I have not seen that smile in years." Her words stayed with me. Months passed. Winter arrived. Snow covered every rooftop in town. One evening, Calvin invited me to his little farmhouse just outside town. Nothing fancy. A warm fireplace. Old family photographs. A soup recipe his mother had written by hand decades earlier. We ate dinner while snow quietly covered the windows. After dessert, he reached across the table. Not dramatically, just enough for his hand to touch mine. "Lorraine," he said softly, "we both know we have fewer years ahead than behind us." I nodded. I do not want to spend those years alone. Neither did I. At 70 years old, those words felt different than they would have at 20. They carried no fantasy, only honesty. 6 months later, we married in our church with fewer than 30 guests. No loud music, no grand decorations, just family, friends, simple flowers, simple promises. I believed I had found peace again. The first weeks were gentle. We cooked together, He made pancakes every Saturday. I watered the flowers while he trimmed the hedges. Every evening we watched old movies. Sometimes neither of us spoke for an hour. It felt comfortable. Comfort is a beautiful thing. Then little things began changing, not all at once, quietly. So quietly that I almost convinced myself I was imagining them. Calvin started locking the small office upstairs. "It is just paperwork," he would say. One afternoon, I accidentally walked toward the room while carrying clean towels. He closed the door before I reached it. His smile looked forced. "It is messy in there." That answer felt strange. He had never cared about a messy room before. Then came the phone calls. He always stepped outside to answer them, even during dinner, even late at night. When I asked who kept calling, he simply smiled. Old business matters. I wanted to believe him. After all, trust is supposed to come with marriage, especially at our age. Still, something inside me became uneasy. Not because I thought he was seeing another woman. No, it was something else, something I could not explain. One cold evening, I looked out the kitchen window while washing dishes. I watched Calvin standing alone near the mailbox. He was speaking on the phone. His shoulders looked tense. When he noticed me watching, he quickly ended the call. For the first time since our wedding, he looked afraid. Not angry, not guilty, afraid. That night, as we climbed into bed, we lay on opposite sides in complete silence. The distance between us was only a few feet, yet it felt wider than an ocean. I stared into the darkness. A question kept repeating inside my mind. Who had I really married? And why did it suddenly feel as if my new life was quietly slipping through my fingers before it had even begun? The next morning, I woke before sunrise. That was nothing unusual. As people grow older, sleep often becomes lighter. I made coffee. 2 cups. One for me, one for Calvin. He came into the kitchen a few minutes later. He smiled. But it was the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Morning," he said. "Morning." We sat together. The television was off. Only the sound of the coffee maker filled the room. Months earlier, silence between us had felt peaceful. Now it felt heavy. After breakfast, he picked up his truck keys. "I have a few errands. Need any help?" "No." His answer came too quickly. He kissed my forehead and left. I stood at the front window until his truck disappeared around the corner. Something inside me whispered that I should let it go. Another voice told me I could not. Maybe you have felt that before. When your heart senses something your mind cannot explain. That afternoon, I visited my closest friend, Elaine. We had known each other for almost 40 years. She poured tea into 2 old mugs. "You look tired," she said. "I am." "Is it the marriage?" I hesitated. "I think Calvin is hiding something." Elaine did not answer right away. She simply waited. Real friends know silence can be more helpful than advice. Finally, she asked, "Do you think he is being unfaithful?" I shook my head. "No." "Then what?" "I do not know." That frightened me even more. A few days later, Calvin suggested we visit my daughter, Melissa. The visit felt normal. My grandchildren laughed in the backyard. Melissa made homemade lasagna. Everyone smiled. Yet every time Calvin's phone vibrated, he quietly stepped outside. Melissa noticed. "So, everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Of course!" But she knew me too well. Later, while washing dishes together, she lowered her voice. "Mom, yes, you have that worried look." "What worried look?" "The same one you had when Dad got sick and kept saying he was fine." I stopped drying the plate. "I hope I am wrong." She gently touched my arm. "If something feels wrong, do not ignore it." Those words stayed with me. A week later, something happened that changed everything. I was folding laundry upstairs. Calvin had left in a hurry. For the first time, he forgot to lock the office door. I stood outside the room for nearly a minute. My hand rested on the doorknob. I kept telling myself, "Do not go in. Trust your husband." Then another thought came. Why should a wife be afraid of a room in her own house? I slowly opened the door. The room was surprisingly neat. A desk, a filing cabinet, a bookshelf. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed a large brown envelope lying half under the desk. It looked like someone had shoved it there quickly. I picked it up. Inside were papers, dozens of them, bank statements, property records, letters. Most meant nothing to me until I saw one document. My name, my full name, Lorraine Whitmore Mercer. I froze. The document listed our house, not just his house, our house. Next to my name was another page. It was an application, a reverse mortgage. My signature appeared at the bottom, except I had never signed it. I stared at it again. The signature looked similar, very similar, but it was not mine. Someone had copied it. My hands started shaking. "No," I whispered. "There has to be some mistake." I searched through the envelope again. There were more papers, insurance forms, loan documents, transfer requests. Some carried my name. Others carried only Calvin's. Several signatures looked almost identical to mine. None of them were real. I suddenly felt sick. I sat down in his chair because my legs no longer felt strong enough to hold me. The man I had trusted, the man I had married. Why would he have papers like this? Had he planned this before we even married? Or had something happened after? I wanted to believe there was an explanation. I truly did. Then I found one final letter. It had arrived 3 months earlier. It was from a debt collection agency. The amount owed was more than $300,000. I could barely breathe. $300,000. How? Calvin had always said he lived comfortably. He never mentioned debts, never mentioned financial problems, never asked me for money. Nothing made sense. I carefully placed everything back into the envelope exactly as I had found it. Then I closed the office door. For the rest of the afternoon, I wandered through the house without knowing what I was doing. I watered flowers that did not need watering. I folded towels twice. I turned the television on and never watched it. Around 6 o'clock, I heard his truck pull into the driveway. Usually that sound brought comfort. This time, my stomach tightened. He walked inside carrying a small paper bag. "I picked up your favorite blueberry muffins." I looked at him. He smiled. The same gentle smile that had first made me trust him. For one painful second, I wanted to forget everything I had seen. Instead, I quietly asked, "Calvin, yes? Is there something you have been meaning to tell me?" He stopped moving, only for a second. But I saw it. Fear. Real fear. "What do you mean? I just feel like there are things I do not know." He laughed softly. "You worry too much." Then he walked into the kitchen. That answer hurt more than if he had shouted, because it sounded rehearsed. That night I could not sleep. Around midnight, I heard him quietly leave the bed. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Then I slowly followed him downstairs. The living room was dark. Only the light from his cell phone lit his face. He was whispering. "I just need a little more time." Silence. "I told you she still does not know." Another pause. "No, I cannot lose the house now." My heart nearly stopped. "She still does not know." The words echoed through my mind. Before I could move, the wooden floor creaked beneath my foot. Calvin turned around. Our eyes met across the dark room. Neither of us spoke. He slowly lowered the phone. And in that terrible silence, I realized my second marriage was built on a secret much larger than I had ever imagined. Neither of us moved. The house felt so quiet that I could hear the old clock in the hallway. Tick, tick, tick. Calvin slowly placed his phone on the coffee table. He looked at me for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "You were not supposed to hear that." I folded my arms. "I was not supposed to find those papers either." The color left his face. You went into my office. I did. You should not have." His words hurt me more than I expected. Not because he sounded angry, because he sounded disappointed that I had discovered the truth. I took a deep breath. I saw the loan papers. He closed his eyes. I saw the signatures. His shoulders dropped. I saw the debt. For a moment, he looked much older than 73. He sat down slowly. I never wanted this. I could not stop the tears. "Then tell me why." He buried his face in his hands. "I made a terrible mistake years ago," I waited. "I invested almost everything after I retired." "In what?" "A company owned by a man I trusted." "What happened?" "It collapsed." "How much did you lose?" "Almost everything." I stared at him. "You told me your retirement was secure." I lied. The word hung between us. Lied. Such a small word, such enormous damage. "I was ashamed," he whispered. "I did not want you to think I was a failure." I shook my head. "So you forged my signature?" His eyes filled with tears. "I never finished the application." "What?" "I started it. You signed my name." "I know." "You used my identity." "I know." But I could not go through with it. I remembered the papers. The loan had never been approved. There were missing documents. It suddenly made sense. He had started the process, then stopped. But why hide it? Because every day I wanted to tell you, and every day became harder. I walked toward the kitchen. I needed space to breathe. I stood by the sink and looked out into the darkness. The backyard looked exactly the same. The bird feeder, the old maple tree, the porch swing. Everything looked normal. My life was not. After several minutes, Calvin quietly entered the kitchen. "I deserve your anger." "Yes." "I deserve your disappointment." "Yes." "But I never married you for money." I turned around. "Then why did you lie from the beginning?" He looked down at the floor. "Because lonely people sometimes make foolish choices." His answer stayed with me. Loneliness. I knew exactly what that felt like. But loneliness was never an excuse to destroy trust. The next morning, I packed a small suitcase. I did not yell. I did not throw anything. I simply packed my clothes. Calvin watched from the bedroom doorway. "You are leaving. I need time. Will you come back?" "I honestly do not know." He nodded slowly. "I understand." When I arrived at Melissa's house, she opened the door before I even knocked. She looked at my suitcase. Then she looked into my eyes. "Oh, Mom." That was all she said. I hugged her. For the first time in years, I cried like a child. Over the next few weeks, lawyers became part of my life. I never imagined spending my 70s sitting inside law offices. But there I was. We discovered something important. The reverse mortgage had never been completed. No money had ever been borrowed. The forged signatures had been rejected because additional verification was required. Legally, my home was still safe. Emotionally, nothing felt safe. The lawyer asked if I wanted to report Calvin for forgery. I looked down at my hands. My answer did not come quickly. I remembered our walks by the lake, Saturday pancakes, old movies, his gentle voice in the library. Then I remembered the lies, the hidden office, the secret phone calls, the fake signature. Two different versions of the same man lived inside my memories. Melissa supported whatever decision I wanted to make. "I just want you to be safe," she said. Elaine visited almost every afternoon. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just watched birds from the porch. Healing is not always loud. Sometimes it happens in complete silence. Nearly a month later, I received a handwritten letter. Not a text, not an email, a letter. It was from Calvin. His handwriting was uneven. The first sentence broke my heart. "I finally became the honest man you deserved after you walked away." He admitted everything, every lie, every poor decision, every fearful choice. He wrote that he had sold the farmhouse. He had used the money to settle most of his debts. He also admitted that losing me hurt more than losing every dollar. At the end of the letter, he wrote something I read over and over. I thought being poor would make you leave me. Instead, my lies did. I folded the letter carefully. Then I placed it inside my dresser. Not because I had forgiven him, because I wanted to remember the difference between poverty and dishonesty. Money had never frightened me. Secrets did. A few days later, Calvin called. I let the phone ring. Then I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, he whispered, "I am sorry." I believed he meant it. But sometimes the deepest apology comes too late. We agreed to meet one last time, not as husband and wife. As two older people trying to understand how everything had fallen apart. We met at the same small lake where we used to walk. The benches were still there. The ducks still crossed the water. The world had continued moving while our marriage stood still. Calvin looked thinner, older. His eyes carried the weight of regret. "I do not expect another chance," he said. "I know. I only wanted to tell you the truth while looking into your eyes." For the first time since all of this began, there were no secrets between us, only truth, painful truth. And somehow, that truth felt lighter than every lie we had carried together. I listened quietly, not because my heart had healed, but because I finally understood what had really destroyed us. It was never the debt. It was never the money. It was the silence that kept growing until trust had no room left to breathe. After we left the lake, I did not look back. Not because I hated Calvin, because I knew that if I turned around, I might remember only the good days. And healing needs honesty. The weeks that followed felt strange. For the first time since my second wedding, I no longer had to wonder what secret waited behind a closed door. The questions were gone. The answers had taken their place. Some answers hurt, but they also brought peace. I moved back into my own little house. It felt different now, not empty, just quiet. One morning I stood in the kitchen making oatmeal. Sunlight came through the window. I noticed dust floating in the air. For years I had rushed past little moments like that. Now I watched them. Growing older teaches you something. Life is not only about big moments. Sometimes peace hides inside ordinary mornings. I returned to volunteering at the library. The children still laughed. The older visitors still wanted someone to listen. One little boy asked me where the history books were. I smiled. Without thinking, I almost looked around for Calvin. Then I remembered. Some memories never disappear. They simply become softer. One afternoon, Elaine stopped by with homemade cookies. We sat on my porch watching the neighborhood. She looked at me carefully. "You seem lighter. I think I am. Do you still love him?" I looked across the street where an elderly couple slowly walked hand in hand. "I probably always will. But love is not always enough," she nodded. Neither of us needed to say anything else. A few months later, I received another letter. This time it was much shorter. Inside was only one page. It read, "I finally finished paying every debt that was mine. Not yours, mine. You once told me that honesty makes a person sleep peacefully. Last night was the first peaceful sleep I have had in years. Thank you for teaching me that. I will always be sorry. There was no request to come back, no promise that things would change, only acceptance." I folded the letter and placed it beside the first one. Some stories do not need another chapter. They only need understanding. As autumn arrived, Melissa invited me for Thanksgiving. The whole family gathered around one long table. My grandchildren argued over pumpkin pie. Someone spilled gravy. Everyone laughed. The house felt alive. At one point, my oldest grandson sat beside me. "Grandma? Yes? Are you happy?" Children ask the hardest questions. I thought for a moment. Then I smiled. "I am learning how to be." He smiled back. "I think that counts. I believe he was right." One snowy evening, nearly a year after I left Calvin, My phone rang. His name appeared on the screen. For a long moment, I simply stared at it. Then I answered. His voice sounded weaker than I remembered. "I hope I am not bothering you. You are not. I only wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Calvin. I heard you are doing well. I am glad." There was another silence, not an uncomfortable one. Just two older people accepting what life had become. Before ending the call, he quietly said, "You gave me one last gift." "What gift?" "The chance to become honest before my life ends." I closed my eyes. "I hope you keep that gift." "I will." We never spoke again. The following spring, Melissa called me one morning. Her voice was gentle. "Mom, I thought you should know. I already understood. Calvin?" "Yes. He passed away peacefully last night." I thanked her and quietly hung up. I did not cry immediately. Instead, I walked outside. The birds were singing. The maple tree had tiny green leaves again. Life was beginning another season. I sat on my porch for almost an hour. Finally, tears came. Not because I wished we had stayed married. Not because I regretted leaving. I cried for what could have been. For two lonely people who truly cared for each other but allowed fear to speak louder than honesty. A week later, I attended his memorial service. I sat in the last row. Most people did not recognize me. That was fine. When the service ended, his younger sister walked over. She hugged me tightly. "He loved you," she whispered. "I know. He talked about you until the very end." I smiled through my tears. "I loved him too." She squeezed my hand. Then we both walked away. On the drive home, I kept thinking about how people often believe love ends because of one terrible day. That is rarely true. Most marriages fade one quiet moment at a time, one hidden worry, one conversation that never happens, one truth left unspoken. Until two people who once promised forever suddenly become strangers living under the same roof. At 70, I believed getting married again would erase my loneliness. It did not. Loneliness cannot be healed by another person alone. It also needs trust, respect, honesty, and the courage to tell the truth before fear becomes stronger than love. Today, I am 72. Every morning, I still make 1 cup of coffee. I still sit by the kitchen window. I still watch the sunrise. The difference is this: I no longer wait for someone else to bring peace into my life. I have learned to build that peace myself. Maybe you have lived through something similar. Maybe your marriage has known long silences. Maybe someone you loved disappointed you. Or maybe you were the one carrying a secret you were afraid to share. If there is one thing this chapter of my life taught me, it is this: do not let fear become the loudest voice in your marriage. Money can be earned again. Homes can be replaced. Even broken hearts can slowly heal. But trust. Trust must be protected every single day. Because once it quietly slips away, love often follows behind it. And that is a lesson I learned much later than I wish I had.